From mysterious elements with surprising properties to recent seismic activity, here is what's inside the moon.
Hey guys, this is your host, American Eye, but today I'm right here on Titanic, bringing you this video.
We've got some really interesting info to share with you today, but while you're watching, see if you can find the answer to today's quiz question. How many photos has the US Navy taken of the dark side of the moon, and how many have actually been released to the public? Put your answer in the comments below for a chance to be featured in tomorrow's video. How the moon was formed. The mainstream hypothesis to how the moon was formed is often debated, but theories believe that the Earth collided with an astronomical body about the size of Mars around 4.5 billion years ago. A large chunk of debris from this collision created the moon. The giant impact theory is the favorite hypothesis, and supporting evidence seems to indicate the various forms. One of them is that the moon's surface was once molten. Samples of the moon would suggest that it has similar properties to both Earth and the mysterious body that collided with our planet. The collision would also seem to be supportive of the unique geological and geochemical properties of the moon, but there are just some things that still remain a mystery to this day. Various theories have been proposed, including the moon being a giant asteroid, or that the moon spun off from Earth's molten surface due to centrifugal force. But could the moon just possibly be a giant alien spaceship, or just have a more mysterious origin that's difficult to explain? Elements of the moon. Contrary to popular belief, the moon is actually not made from cheese, but various elements. Some of these we don't even find on Earth. Although the moon might look like a barren, lifeless wasteland from photos, it might actually be a bountiful, mineral-rich cosmic treasure trove of cosmic resources. It's even been stated on NASA's website that there may be rare elements that are strategic for national importance. Some of the important elements are thought to exist include europium and tantalum. What's interesting about europium is that it's being studied to be used in nuclear reactors due to it being a good absorber of neutrons. It's also being actively used in advanced technologies such as plasma screens, laser beams, and also used in explosives. Some indications from the Russians would also claim that there is a rare form of iron that doesn't rust that naturally forms here and is not found on Earth. Other valuable minerals include plagioclase, pyroxene, olivine, and elements like gold, silver, mercury, silicon, and titanium. There are also rumors about there being helium-3 here, which rarely exists on Earth and has also been described as perfect fuel for nuclear fusion. Moon rocks. If somehow you can go to the moon, harvest some moon rocks, and bring them back to Earth, you'll likely be extremely rich. Despite the expense of getting there, with moon rocks selling at $50,000 per gram, you wouldn't need to bring back much to break even. Astronauts didn't bring back too much though after the Apollo mission, hoping to possibly keep the price pretty high. There's an estimated 842 pounds of moon rock on display and has even been considered a national gift. The astronauts who recover the material are not allowed to keep a personal supply. Moon rock is so expensive on the black market that even people working at NASA space stations have been caught trying to sell it. One woman got caught trying to sell $1.7 million worth of the substance to authorities and was charged with a federal crime. Apollo missions. Finally, on the 45th anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing, Buzz Aldrin admitted to seeing hovering lights and things he just couldn't explain. He claimed to have seen a suspicious object and appeared to be following their spacecraft for 3 days. He stated that it was clearly not a rocket booster and didn't want to tell command in Houston because he was worried that they would tell him to turn back. There's most likely more that he's not willing to admit just yet, it seems. For some reason, after Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon, he seemed to experience some rough times in his life, including problems with depression and alcoholism. His marriage of 21 years fell apart, and he's been married 3 times. His ex-wives left him broke after the divorces, and he had to work at a Cadillac dealership to make do. During many interviews, you can tell he's somewhat reluctant to give up too many details that accompanied him during his journey. You also have to wonder sometimes how the experience on the moon has affected him personally. Volcanoes. The majority of volcanism on the moon appears to have occurred sometime between 3 to 4 billion years ago, but that doesn't mean there weren't a few exceptions. We know from the vast plains of basaltic lava that cover the surface. While many volcanoes on Earth are found on the edge of tectonic plates, volcanoes on the moon seem to have existed on the edges of impact craters and are mainly found around lunar mare. Since there's a lower amount of gravity, the lava could spread a lot further than it could on Earth. The basalt plains cover nearly 1/3 of the lunar near side, but far less on the far side. There hasn't been any evidence of recent geological activity, however, but there is some speculation. Some believe that there could have been an eruption during the same time that there were dinosaurs on planet Earth, around 50 million years ago. So maybe it's not totally lifeless? Moonquakes. Many are still completely baffled by the fact that the moon might be a little bit more active than we previously thought, and its landscape tends to change. Recent images of the Lunar Reconnaissance orbiter reveal various features that weren't noticed for quite some time. Uncratered ravines that were discovered indicate recent formation, especially since the moon lacks an atmosphere, which virtually makes every impact crater still noticeable. The highlands of the moon tend to display more seismic activity, which could be due to a molten component within the moon's interior. It's been theorized that the mantle must have remained hot enough to create these unusual features, and the magma has caused the moonquakes. Shaking on the moon can last for hours due to a lack of force making them stop. They were first observed by Apollo astronauts, and some are known to happen due to expansion of the frigid crust being exposed to the sun. The dark side. In order not to totally confuse you, the dark side of the moon basically refers to the side of the moon that we're never able to see. The other side of the moon receives just as much sunlight as the near side during a lunar day. 82% of the moon wasn't even photographed or even seen until 1959. What's also interesting to note is that all manned missions of the moon went to the near side. This makes you wonder. Some conspiracies claim that there's an alien base on the far side of the moon that was discovered, which was given to the codename of Luna. Some astronauts might have even made contact with the aliens who gave the humans a warning to stay off the moon. The person who started this was named Milton William Cooper, who was allegedly a former intelligence officer with the US and swore under oath that he knew about it. The US Navy also sent a satellite to the far side of the moon that took 1.8 million photos. However, only 170,000 of those photos were released to the public. The moon supports life. Some might ask themselves, what would happen if the moon didn't exist? If each night we looked up into the sky, it was completely moonless. In fact, life on Earth began around the same time as the moon became ours, around 4.5 billion years ago. Without the moon, we'd realize fairly quickly that the moon has a huge impact on our tides, which have an effect on the lives of tidal creatures. This would then have an effect on tidal creatures such as crabs, mussels, sea snails, and plus the animals who rely on them for food. Coral reefs would be seriously affected, and Earth's population would therefore be different. The main problem, though, would be Earth's axis, who relies on the moon's gravity. Without it, the axis would wobble and wreak total havoc on life as we know it. This then begs the question, did some form of extraterrestrial aid Earth in the formation of the moon so life could ultimately exist? Hollow moon? According to some seismic observations and other data collected, there is some evidence to support that the moon is less dense than Earth and has an overall thinner crust. The first known hollow moon theory came from Edmund Halley, but theories on a hollow Earth have been known to exist since ancient Greek times. In 1970, Soviet scientists revamped the theory and suggested that the moon could have been the creation of alien intelligence. It primarily states that asteroids hitting the moon would produce more cup-shaped holes and not quite so shallow. Seismometers were installed on the moon between 1972 and 1977 during the Apollo missions and was described as ringing like a bell by researchers. Eventually, when Apollo 12 was deliberately crashed into the moon's surface, some claimed that it made a dinging noise, almost as if it was just a giant metal egg covered in moon dust. And number 1, nuking the moon. Would it be really far-fetched to believe that people have possibly nuked the moon at some point in time or planned to in the past? Could that be why there's so many craters on the surface? What better way than to show the Soviet Union who is boss than nuking the moon, right? A writer who created a biography for astronomer Carl Sagan came across some unbelievable intel. Known as Project A119, there appeared to be a plan for the US to completely militarize the moon and even use it as a nuclear weapons testing site. This photo here shows a possible design of a spacecraft that would have allowed a nuke to possibly strike the surface. All these plans, however, were apparently never performed due to the Test Ban Treaty in 1963. This treaty prevented the US and the Soviet Union from using outer space for military operations. But could there be some kind of superweapon on the moon pointing at Earth? Some even claim that the moon was indeed nuked in order to kill some type of alien base up there. What do you believe?